Oh yeah! Ow! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to John Dudley Speaks. I'm your host who desperately wants you to go watch the Vince Staples show on Netflix. Go watch it, it's amazing! Long Beach rapper Vince Staples has carved out his own niche in the hip-hop landscape more than most of his contemporaries can say. Starting out with a mixtape run that led to a collaborative effort with Mac Miller, as well as features on projects by Odd Future, he quickly stood out due to his unique delivery and insightful lyricism. After a debut EP that furthered his rising star, he released Summertime '06 in June 2015, immediately sparking comparisons to classics like Illmatic, with his introspective, unapologetic writing, and a mix of industrial and soul-based instrumentals. Another excellent EP followed to bridge the gap between Summertime '06 and his highly anticipated follow-up, 2017's Big Fish Theory, which still may be his most groundbreaking achievement to date. A production palette lathered in provocative stylistic changes, including hip house, avant-garde, and UK garage. This album boasted Vince's most brutal lyrical takedowns, and the record is still as sharp today as it was back then. 2018's FM was yet another detour, utilizing sunny production highlights from Kenny Beats that perfectly fit into Vince's dexterous, more relaxed flow. After a few years away, Vince reimagined his approach once again, delivering the 1-2 conceptual punch of 2021's self-titled record and 2022's Ramona Park Broke My Heart. The former, fully produced by Kenny Beats, is a cerebral trip through Vince's psyche that is both brisk yet impactful, while the latter, which nearly doubles its length, is a grand statement packed with nuance, ambition, and thoughtfulness. So with the long-awaited Dark Times, does Vince continue on this massive winning streak? I mean, of course he does, but even I didn't expect for him to click with this one as much as he did. And it's a wonder to behold, really. Changing up his musical palette once again, Vince shifts to a whole gamut of new producers on this one, and the switch up really works for him, mixing soul-inflected beats with jet black tinges of industrial, peaceful splashes of new wave, and 90s DJ Premier-inspired boom bap. The project is multifaceted, but stylistically centered and focused, and because of that variety, the production on this may be some of the most daring that Vince has had in his career so far. The washed-out guitars on Shame on the Devil have a slight dissonance to them that's eerie and haunting, while the fuzzy synths on Government Cheese entertain an undercurrent of lunacy and strangeness. Étouffée and Little Homies are peppier cuts that are among the most melodic tracks that Vince has ever done, but it's the soft keys and choppy drum patterns that give Vince the space to flourish over these beats. The funk-laden guitars on Children's Song mesh excellently with the spacious avant-garde arrangement of the track, while Black and Blue, arguably the most straightforward rap cut here, benefits from a synthetic bass line, perfectly mixed samples, and Vince's echoed vocals, all building to a backdrop that feels personal yet grand in scope. Nothing Matters is one of the most interesting beats here as well. The offbeat cadence and the stark piano chord progressions adding a serious weight to the track. Justin, Radio, and Freeman are obvious hits as well. The amalgamation of ethereal vocal soul samples, dauntingly warped pianos, and drums that feel like they're a mile away just cultivate an atmosphere that's so lived in, you can hardly find any overarching issue with the production. I've always found Vince's storytelling to be the most underrated in terms of the crop of 2010s hip-hop artists, partly because I feel like J. Cole was often afforded that spot as the best storyteller of his generation. But looking at something like Might Delete Later, or even going back to the off-season, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find material in there that Vince can't go toe-to-toe with. And that's not me pitting these artists against each other, considering that I enjoy both of their catalogs, but I often feel like Vince is left out of these important conversations about lyricism, and Dark Times further makes the case that he shouldn't be. Conceptually, Vince continues down the same threads narratively that he went down in his last two records, but on Dark Times, this is the most he's externalized his deeper, internalized thoughts, and that's saying something considering his last two records were his most vulnerable yet. Government Cheese is a masterclass in subtlety, striking bitter yet restrained blows at the racist inner workings of Reaganomics and its impact on the impoverished. And Vince uses the chorus here to ironically poke at the fallacy of unrealistic optimism. The wordplay on Children's Song and Étouffée are especially brilliant, both bringing out different sides of Vince's lyrical skills, with the former adopting a bluntness in his storytelling, and the latter leaning into a confessional style. Shame on the Devil acts as a songwriting centerpiece for this record, and that's for a good reason, with Vince providing the closest insights to his worldviews about fame that he ever has in his discography, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of his ability to draw us into his perspective, supplying us with likely his most balanced storytelling and lyricism to date. The biggest criticism of the 1-2 punch of the self-titled and Ramona Park is often surrounding Vince's sleepier delivery, but I never really found that to detract from the projects. However, it would hinder the pacing in a way that would restrain it from being fully realized, but for the most part that's corrected here on Dark Times, with a mild uptick in energy being just what Vince needed to connect with listeners more. His rap song hook on Étouffée is one of the best of his entire career, while his stream of consciousness flows on Justin and Radio are stirring. Conversely, Nothing Matters, Black and Blue, and Government Cheese feature a downcast vocal delivery that borders on monotonal, but the weight behind his voice is dramatic and rugged, offering us a glimpse into his heart and soul that he hasn't provided before. Then there's Little Homies, where Vince excellently matches the energetic beat with a delectable hook that features a hint of the macabre, something he's always been so great at. But his verses are so slick and effortless, it may just be the best he's ever sounded on a record. Overall, it's a commanding performance that grabs our attention from start to finish, and once again just puts on a clinic in demonstrating artistic growth and evolution. Clocking in at 35 minutes with a few interludes to add to the atmosphere, Vince really does not waste any time on this album. I think there is something to be said about Justin and its length, as well as the wrapping up of the themes towards the back end of the record, but I really don't have that much of a problem with such minute issues in the track listing. Vince hits us with strong tracks from the jump, and as the tension escalates, he lets it ebb and flow until we land on Freeman, the de facto closer, and honestly it's a superb send-off. But where he really excels is pacing at the end of the day, letting us in on this journey through dance-driven detours like Étouffée and Little Homies, but never skipping on what brought him to this point, which is his brutal honesty and pitch black humor. So yeah, this is one of my favorite Vince Staples albums, and it will definitely grow on me over time, just as his previous two did. He has a 100% hit rate across his discography in my opinion, so I'm really pleased to see him diving into uncharted waters and pushing himself while also staying true to himself. Not many artists in general that can pull that off. But hey, that's just my perspective. If you're a Vince Staples fan, go spin this one all summer, it's begging for it. And if you're looking for an introspective rap record that's lyrically thought-provoking and instrumentally near perfect, this is one you should definitely spin too. Alright, that's all I got. Bye!